been a little while since I've made a video, a couple of weeks or so. I wasn't really planning on making anything today, but I decided to, so I've got a little time, a little extra free time. You know, lately, I've been thinking about ways that this could be better. Well, can you chill? Can you chill? Ways that this could be better. You know, lately I've had the thought that perhaps a lot of this online, whatever it is, perhaps a lot of people just take it as entertainment. Maybe it's just entertainment to them. And I do believe that there is a proportion of people that this describes. And I'm not denigrating entertainment, because we all do need some entertainment from time to time. You know, for myself, basically, I got into this. My channel, this YouTube channel, turned 4 years old last week. It's grown slowly, and I'm fine with that. The algorithm has not done me any favors, I'm sure. But then again, I think about it, and perhaps the algorithm has done me a favor, because it has kept me relatively obscure. It has allowed me to fly under the radar. In fact, I'm amazed sometimes that my channel hasn't gotten taken down yet. I'm grateful for that. And it growing slow is absolutely fine by me. I don't really want this for popularity. Not in the least. Especially with some of the things that I've witnessed over the last few years. But I believe that if you spend hours a day consuming content, yes, we call it content because for some people, I believe it's just an endless cycle of consume content, react, and repeat. You have people that engage in these highly intellectual notions, which there's nothing wrong with that. You have people that chase the news cycle, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But it seems to just be a cycle of consume, react, and repeat. I believe it was Dino from Goy Talk I first heard this from. And I believe it's true, unfortunately. And let me tell you this, if you're just sitting around hours and hours every day online, I'm going to be real with you, you're in this for the wrong reasons. Now, we all need entertainment, but if that is all that your life is, then you're truly missing out. You know, I started this channel because I'm not really a person that likes to sit on the sidelines. I made it personal. Now, of course, I've talked about this with my friends. You know, we have a persona that we show to the audience, but then there's also who we really are. And that's why on this channel I've always tried to be extremely honest. You know, I don't reveal everything, but I've been pretty open about my past and about what led me to hold the current views that I do. But you know, over time, especially over the last year, I have grown kind of tired of doing this in a way. In fact, oftentimes, as of late, I have felt rather uninspired. I've also felt that perhaps I've said nearly everything that needs to be said. I want something more. You know, there is a sort of bridge, a need to bridge the gap between what we do online and what we do in real life. I have always tried to do this. I'm not really a part of any sort of public-facing political group, never have been. Don't know if I ever will be. But one thing I have always advocated for is you build up your network. And you know, through my time in doing this, I've managed to meet nearly, I would say about 20 people that I otherwise would have never met unless I decided over 4 years ago to do this. You know, to get the true measure of a man, you have to meet them in person, I believe. Spend some time with them. And I do know that this can be potentially a risky endeavor, a dangerous endeavor perhaps. Yet, I've gotten to know these people beforehand, speaking to them online or on the phone, whatever. Felt comfortable enough, I went to meet them. Several of them have came here to the house and stayed. Others I have traveled as far as 6-7 hours away to meet. I want to make this real, you know. Because as I said, I feel like just doing this, just making content, not quite satisfactory. You need more. Don't be a person that just consumes and lives for entertainment. Because one day you're going to wake up and you may be 30, 40, 50 years old, and you realize you just lived your life staring at a screen. Maybe listening to me, maybe listening to other demagogues and things of that nature. And you will wonder where your life has went. And I would imagine that's probably a terrible and empty feeling to feel that way. The key is, me and my friend Billy Bob was talking about this a couple of weekends ago. The key is making it personal. Now, how do you make it personal? Well, I try to live by what I talk about on this channel. And you know, earlier I mentioned that there is the online persona and then there is the true person. The true person is who is revealed to your loved ones, your friends, your family, even your enemies, you could say. You know, I try to be authentic in that regard. But making it personal, you can do this by several ways. For me, the first step, I guess, was just starting this channel. I try to live, and honestly, what you see here is pretty well how I act. I'm actually probably a lot more entertaining in person. I don't show my sense of humor here too often. I do every now and then, but a little more serious, I guess. I know I swear a lot in my videos. I know I cuss a lot. That is a habit that I'm going to have to nearly eliminate here soon because I don't want my daughter growing up with a foul mouth like her old man. With a son I might think a little differently, but I think it's kind of unattractive when women just cuss all the time. I don't want her to hear some of the things that I say. But I am what I am, because that's me. I've also made it personal, like I said earlier, by trying to network and trying to meet people. And I understand you have to be cautious with this. There are bad actors around. There are people that are stupid. Stupid people, as I've said before. As Mason has said, will get you hemmed up quicker than anything. We make it personal by transitioning what we believe, and we put it and we enact it into our own personal lives. There's many ways you can do this. Some people, several of you watching probably, are engaged in groups that engage in what I consider conventional public activism. Now, I've made it clear about how I feel about that, but that doesn't matter. I do understand the need for it. And it does foster a sense of community. My only qualm is that I don't like snitches. I hate snitches. And there's plenty of those around. And if you're engaged in a large enough group, you can't avoid that sort of thing. You've got to have some street smarts. You've got to have some caution. And it doesn't hurt to have some intuition. It doesn't hurt to know what to look for. But I wish these people luck, and I understand the need for it. Bo's just running laps around the backyard here. I think one of the best ways to make it personal is to start your own family. Procreate. Because that is a selfless act in itself. I'm not into antinatalism. But I also believe that not everybody is meant to reproduce, of course. And with what we see with modern society, of course, there are many people who probably should never reproduce. But that selfless act, you're bringing a life into this world, and you want to make the world a little bit better for them. You want to leave them something. I knew there'd be a couple of things that I forgot, as there always is, but one of the ways you can make it personal is by, I see all these little projects popping up in our circles. Some of them are starting their own intentional communities, and I think this is a great idea. You gotta have community. Community fosters strong bonds. It's also a way of reducing your dependence on the system, and it also fosters accountability. And that's something that is absolutely lacking for the most part when you're perpetually online, of course. The other is charitable work. I've often thought that I would like to start a sort of charity, a pro-white charity for Appalachia, but I really don't know where to begin with such a project, unfortunately. I have no experience doing such a thing. But basically, just to sum it up, to make it personal, you have to put a part of yourself into it. There has to be some sort of commitment. For me, This was something I was going to bring up in that stream with Brant Danger I did a couple of weekends ago. But I decided against it. But the idea came to me then. You know, with the propaganda effort, you could say what I produce is propaganda. Perhaps. My propaganda doesn't do very well reaching the population, you could say. I just have a small following. The algorithm, which is a blessing and a curse in its own. But you know, we all have... Some people talk about this. They want to... One of the common things I used to hear is, oh, if you red pill, and you know, I'm kind of sick of all this internet jargon, but if you red pill enough normies, everything will fall into place. It doesn't work that way. I don't believe it works that way. Just because you have knowledge, which knowledge is power in itself, how do you implement and how do you use that knowledge to better your situation? There needs to be a sort of plan, you could say. And I don't believe that, you know. I don't believe it's just waking people up. There's much more to it. That's a first step. There's a lot more to it. You know, for me, and the concept the idea that I had was about propaganda. How do you reach, or let me rephrase this, how do you bring up a fact or a bit of information that will make your average Joe stop and consider something? I call this a hang-up. You get hung up on something, mentally speaking. There is something that piques your interest, and I'm just going to call it a hang-up. I'm sure there's a correct term for it, but I have not bothered to look that up, and I'm just for brevity's sake, I'm just going to call it a hang-up. You know what my hang-up was? And this goes back to making it personal. What made it personal for me? You know, I've told the story about how I became aware of certain things. Me and my father, back in 2016, watched a certain documentary about a period in history that kind of opened my eyes, you could say. It helped ignite some latent interests that had always been there, you could say. But what drove it home for me was what I witnessed during the years of meth, and in the years beforehand as well. When I learned about the Sackler family back in late 2018, not long after I moved down here, I started looking for answers. When I learned of the Sackler family, you alright, Bo? When I learned about the Sackler family, that was my hang-up. When I learned that there were these culprits of a certain tribe who had unleashed such depravity and carnage here in Appalachia and elsewhere, a targeted white blizzard for the white working class and middle class, I guess you could say all classes, but it seems to really hit home with the white working class, especially in rural areas. When I seen the white blizzard and its effects, you know, during the years of meth, open borders, most of the methamphetamine I consumed came from Mexico, open borders. And then you further learn things. You learn that the government, if they wanted to, they could stop all of this shit within a month, but they don't want to. Tons of money to be made from it, tons of black money. Black money funds so many government operations. And what I mean by black money is money that's made on the black market. I don't, when I learned this, and when it's personal to me, because every single time I go back home to Northeast Tennessee a few times a year, the last time I was up there was in August. And you know, I ride around my village, ride up the hollers, visit my family. But I see the human wreckage more clear than ever when I return home. I see people walking up and down the roads, emaciated, sores all over their faces. Some of them, I'm not going to get into it. You know, I have some interesting thoughts when I witness this. And it's not just that, it's the stuff that I witnessed and partook in back during the years of meth. The criminality, drug abuse. You know, it's seeing people that I used to run around with who have passed on for various reasons. Some killed, some because their bodies were finally broken from all the abuse they put it through for years. It's seeing children growing up in squalor and poverty because their parents are too fucking sorry to give them decent clothes, to give them a safe place to live that ain't got syringes laying all over the fucking floor. It's just the fact of a lot of parents not even being involved in their kids' life because they're too busy destroying themselves and killing themselves. They're too selfish. And I'm not sitting here acting like some moral arbiter because I partook in these things, engaged in criminality and robbery. I was a part of the problem. But even then, I always had the self-awareness that life is not supposed to be this way. This is not how it should be. That's what made it personal, is just seeing all this human wreckage. And it sickens me. You know, I have wild thoughts when I see some of these addicts. Actually, I probably better not get into some of these thoughts on this video about how to rectify the situation. It would probably get taken down. You know, I have a low tolerance when I see this, even though I used to be there. You know, it's a real problem. And it's even worse. It seems like, I swear, and even me and my father were talking about this, it seems even worse in the extreme, like where I'm from in the northeast corner of Tennessee, extremely rural. Why are there homeless people? Why are there just, you know, vagrants walking around, drug-addled, looking like zombies? This is what America is, you know. It's just this sort of hollowness. You know, when you make it personal, you put weight on the bar. And you know, adversity builds character, but also adversity reveals character. You got to keep that in mind. Is there anything else? I know this video's been kind of rambling, as about 95% of my videos are. But you should strive to practice what you preach and to make it personal. And you know, I've mentioned this advice before, you know. You gotta live. You can't just live vicariously online 24/7. It's destructive. It ain't good for your mental health either. And you know, I don't watch a lot of people's content that they produce. I don't really watch any of the big channels. And in fact, I will say this, I have discovered that there's plenty of people who have big names that allegedly share our values that I do not care for. I don't like them. I'm not going to waste time going after them because I don't really have the time and I'm not really interested. Doesn't change the fact, though, that I don't like them. And in fact, some of the biggest snakes that you will ever meet, or come into contact with, I should say, online, some of the biggest snakes are the ones that allegedly think like you, and that supposedly hold dear what you hold dear. So you got to keep that in mind. And I'm not trying to instill a sense of like paranoia, but I've grown kind of jaded with some of the things that I've seen. And be that as it may, I have met people that have made this completely worthwhile. Friends for life, brothers, sisters. But that's the big question that I pose for you. Are you in this for entertainment, or is it personal? Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.